Hello, I'm Kieran, and this is the reading of Chapter 6 of A Silent Kind of Strength by Kitten Crusade on AO3. Chapter 6. 2 weeks passed quickly. Inko only came home while Izuku was at school and was back to work before he got home. He appreciated how much work she put in to keep them both fed and with a roof over their heads, but he missed getting to eat dinners with her. The bruises showing on his face had gone from deep purples and blues to bright yellows and sickly browns. His ribs still twinged if he wasn't careful when moving, but even that was dulled from what it was. And, lucky for him, Kachan seemed satisfied with the still visible marks and didn't feel a need to go off on him too much when he once again came back to school. Though his good mood might be more from feeling better after another week and a half of rest. Izuku was retroactively glad Mirakuma-sensei had called the paramedics and made them treat his lungs the night of the Sludge Villain incident. One of his late-night internet dives had landed him on a medical site of looking up pulmonary edema. Yeah, no thanks. No wonder Bakugo had seemed extra bitchy when he came to school still sick. Mei-chan had soon distracted him from that line of research, though. With her help, he had managed to not only fix his hearing aids when they got broken from a stray explosion last Friday, but he had also drawn up plans for new and improved hearing aids of his own design. A far cry from the upgrade that he wanted to make at first. He was planning on going to the shop this Saturday to talk with her and her mom about what extra parts he might need and if they could source completely new casings for his new tech. Shinso had also become a constant in his nighttime routine. He never seemed to sleep, so when Izuku was constantly texting memes back and forth with him, while also scribbling on his notebook or researching or studying, whatever his strict 10-month schedule required from him at that night. He had also managed to meet up with the purple-haired teen 2 more times at the little cafe. Apparently, the insomniac couldn't say no when you offered to pay for his coffee, though he did seem a little bit uncomfortable with not paying for himself. But Izuku still had plenty of money saved back from selling off his mighty merch, and he had a feeling that Shinso didn't have a lot of spare cash. Besides, he had to show the other boy how much he appreciated having him as a friend somehow, even though he knew that the friendship would end as soon as quirks were brought up. Weird that neither of his friends have asked yet. Just a matter of time. He was going to enjoy it while it lasted. He could probably ride this high up until the end of high school if he thought about the last 2 weeks, when he's at his lowest. Plus, Mei-chan had taught him so much, and he wanted to learn as much as he could from her before she left. To distract himself from thoughts of the future, he zeroed on the blueprint he was drawing up. He had finally figured out the code he would need to write, or his design, so now he could see how the parts would come together. Maybe he could skip sleep completely tonight to get a head start on that code. If he did that, he would need coffee in the morning. He sent off a text to invite Shinso and dove back into drawing his careful lines in his notebook open before him. Flashing light alerted him of a reply, and he scooped up his phone case to see Mei excitedly talking about how she had been meaning to stop at that coffee shop for a while. Oops, wrong person. Well, maybe his friends could meet each other. He wasn't sure how they would get along together, but he really wanted to see Shinso tomorrow, and he didn't want to let Mei down now that she was so excited. He sent off another text, this time making sure it was the right number, seeing if Shinso would be willing to meet someone new. And bribing him with coffee, of course. Guess we will see how this goes. He dashed out the front door, scrubbing at his face with wet wipes that he had started carrying in his backpack. He had gotten lost in tinkering with the other project he had started as practice and ran out of time for a shower. If he wanted to meet up with his friends, he would just have to wipe the grease off as best as he could and hope he doesn't break out. He ignored the ache as he scrubbed across his still sore nose. It wasn't anywhere near as painful as it had been a week ago. Manageable. He slowed down a bit to catch his breath as he got to the street the shop was on. He might be a good endurance sprinter after running away from bullies so often, but he didn't want to show up all sweaty and out of breath where our meeting with Shinso. He was already lame enough as it is, thank you very much. He glanced through the window and saw that Mei was there already, drooling over the pastry display. honestly, mood. The bell on the door jingled merrily as he walked in and made his way over to his friend. Good morning, Kachan. Zukun! She spun around and bounced towards him with her endless energy, either not noticing or ignoring the blush the nickname earned her. This place has so many goodies. Look! What do you think I should get? Izuku started to reply, only to be interrupted with a familiar deep voice. Oh yes, Zukun, what do you suggest? He didn't squeak. He didn't. As he spun around, he came face to face with a certain purple-eyed menace. A menace who was smirking at him. Izuku was certain his heart skipped a beat. Not fair. Shinsuke, I didn't see it there. Another smirk. Damn him. I saved us a table in the corner. I came early to work on a project that's due later today. The greenette did his best to kill a blush he knew was probably covering his face and highlighting the last of his bruising. I see. Well, Shinsuke, this is Hatsume Mei. Mei-chan, this is Shinso Hitoshi. And then he notices the way his friends are looking at each other, and the fact that their school uniforms are very similar. Oh, do you go to the same school? I guess I never asked where you went, Mei-chan. Mei speaks up, head tilted a bit to the side, obviously studying the new teen. You're in 3C, right? Hitoshi nodded, looking extremely uncomfortable all of a sudden. Yeah, you're 3A's my genius. The pink-haired girl grinned. Yep, and you're the quiet kid. Shinso flinched, and Izuku decided to step in and try to stop whatever uncomfy thing was going on here. Wow, small world, huh? Let's go order our coffee, okay? He ushered them both up to the counter and rambled on to Hatsume about how good the pastries are and how his favorite so far was the bear claws. While he directed her attention towards the display case, he signed for Shinso to go on ahead and order what he wanted. To his confusion, Shinso shook his head and signed that he didn't want anything. But wasn't free coffee the only reason he came? Izuku felt a wave of uneasiness wash over him. Did Shinso not want to be his friend anymore? Was it because he was deaf and a loser? He knew Mei-chan was a bit much, but she was fun and friendly, so it couldn't be her. What did he do wrong? Shakily, he raised his hands and asked. At least, if he knew what he did to upset him, he could actually try and fix it. And no one ever had any trouble telling him when he fucked things up before. Maybe he could save this if he acted quickly enough. Guarded purple eyes soon looked a little lost as he caught on to his question, and the taller teen quickly signed back. What do you mean? You didn't do anything. Izuku couldn't look at him as he answered, cursing his stupid shaking hands as he did so. You always come for coffee. Did I say something to upset you? To make you change your mind? He watched as Long Fingers replied quickly. He painted his nails black, he noted idly, as he watched to hear the transgression. It's not like that, I swear. I remember when I told you I learned to sign because I had trouble talking sometimes? Well, I couldn't bring myself to talk to the barista, and I don't want to force you to order for me, and you'll always pay, so I feel bad, so... The purple-haired boy trailed off, shrugging self-consciously, tugging at the sleeves of his uniform and not meeting the shorter teen's gaze. Oh, Izuku said. Smart Midoriya. Oh, so smart. I don't mind ordering for you, Shinso. I find it hard to order at places like this too sometimes, especially if I don't have my hearing aids, and I already told you, I have a bit of money saved up from selling some of my old toys and things. I don't mind. Now, what do you want? Shinso looked a bit uneasy, but he finally replied just as regular before he turned back to the table he had saved. The greenette bounced towards him and ordered a black coffee, 2 bear claws, and a mocha latte before turning to Mei, who seemed to finally be coming to a decision on what she wanted. A rainbow muffin and a vanilla latte with 3 shots of espresso was quickly added to his order. Mei chattered away at him as they waited for the order. He smiled and hummed along, but his mind was still on his other friend. He seemed fine when they first came in. What had triggered his muteness? Did he make him uncomfortable by bringing Mei? He didn't mean to. Shinso seemed like a loner, but he never seemed to mind spending time with Izuku's rambles that much. Surely May's enthusiastic tech talk wasn't too different? Did they have history he didn't know about? His internal spiraling was interrupted by May dragging him towards to get their drinks. He must have not heard his name. They traipsed over to the corner Shinso was camped out in, and Izuku pasted on his most reassuring smile as he set the black coffee down in front of him, then sang out loud for Hatsume's benefit. "I don't mind translating for you, Shinso-kun. I have my ears in, so I'm good for signing and speech, whatever you're comfortable with." Before he could slide into the booth, he was tackled from behind. "Izuku-kun, I didn't know he spoke sign too. Since you both do, will you help me practice? I started learning a couple weeks ago, and I know enough now to start conversations." Izuku yelled and almost overbalanced from the weight of his friend. "Mei-chan, you're going to make me fall." He managed to right himself and slipped out of her grip. "I don't mind helping you, though, but what made you take up sign language?" They both settled into the booth, Izuku on the padded bench across from Shinso, while Mei snagged a chair from another table and sat on it backwards with both of her hands crossed on the table. "Well, I love learning languages. Hatsume Industries is going to be a multinational after all, so I need to know as many possible. And what kind of friend would I be if I didn't learn sign for my deaf bestie?" Green eyes were wide and a bruised and freckled face as he stared down before saying a bit breathlessly, "You're learning for me?" Golden eyes settled on him, head tilted slightly to the side as she asked, "Yeah? Why wouldn't I?" Here comes the waterworks. Freckled hands fruitlessly wipe at his eyes. No one's ever bothered before, Shinso-kun. Only the person my age I've ever been able to sign with." An unreadable look passed across her face, but before he could try to decipher it, Shinso was signing and he let himself be distracted. "I've already told you that it's dumb your school hasn't at least brought in someone to translate your lessons for you. And kind of awful your mom hasn't learned." Izuku frowned, a bit uncomfortable with the last sentence. "She's too busy," he defended weakly. Shinso just shrugged, not taking back what he said, but not acquiescing to her time management either. Mei jumped in. "I caught most of that, I think. Your mom doesn't sign, Zukun?" He sighed and shook his head. "I only lost my hearing a little over a year ago. She hasn't had time to learn since then." The girl tilted her head again. "But there are video tutorials on YouTube that are only a few minutes long. She couldn't try those during her lunch breaks or something?" Freckled hands waved the air at the suggestion. "Oh no, I couldn't ask her to use what little break time she has for something like that. It's fine. Besides, when I talk to her, I get to practice lip reading, which is something I really need to work on anyways." Great. Now both of his friends were frowning at him. After a moment, they looked at each other and seemed to have some sort of 2-second conversation, just to look before they both nodded. Suddenly, they seemed both a lot more relaxed around each other. What was that about? Izuku decided it was time to change the subject and pulled out the blueprint he had started sketching out about an hour ago to show Mei. It was a high-tech weapon similar to a meteor hammer. He had ideas on how to make it more versatile for heroics, but he needed to ask Mirokuma-sensei to run him through the basics of usage before he could know what was actually feasible. As expected, Hatsume immediately went into nerd mode, and even Shinso was looking at the paper with an interest, signing a few questions. The rest of their breakfast meetup went by in a flurry of signing hands and enthusiastic Mayisms. Izuku was sad when it was time to go to school. The other two broke off to head the other way down the road, and he waved to Mei as he continued to fill the silent teen space with her ideas and excitement. Green eyes stared at them wistfully, wishing he had a friend to walk to school with. With a sigh, he shook his head, settling on being glad that the two of them seemed to be getting on well now. It was time to head back to hell. Joy.